Right. Okay. So, so the problem statement talks about the pain point. Data basically suggests the seriousness of the issue. Now, the user insight is like, for example, the user insight is, okay, people in rural areas face challenges in reaching medical facilities. All right. So this user insight is telling the reason why the problem is occurring in the first place. And it is also giving a context. Okay. So the context is the rural areas, and then the challenge is reaching the medical facilities. So that's the challenge. So this is the why that is an outcome of understanding the problem statement data and trying to find the user insight. Now, once you have the user insight, what happens next is from the user insight, you derive the need. What is the need? For example, the need here is providing accessible healthcare solution for rural communities. That would be the need. Okay. So in step 2, we will be generating one valid insight. Of course, there could be many insights for a problem statement, but we will be looking at one key insight. Okay. And then we will be deriving at least one strong need that we find out from the key insight. I'll give you another example. This was actually a real example, but I'm showing it as a hypothetical one because I don't want to take the brand names. Let us say the problem statement is increase the sale of XYZ company kids toothbrushes. All right. Okay. So the company has this issue that the toothbrushes are not being sold, especially in the kids area. So they want to increase the sale. And they also have the data telling that, okay, currently the market share is only 1% of XY, 1%. The XYZ's company's market share is 1%. So there's a large scope of growing sales in that space. Okay, so this is user insight and the data. Now, a problem statement and data. Now, what is a user insight? I mean, this is a real-time project. Okay, so when the designers were working and trying to understand the stakeholder, okay, because here the stakeholder is the kid, okay, who is using the brush to brush his teeth, toothbrush. They observed that kids struggle to brush using the toothbrush because it is very difficult to hold it. So that is the user insight. All right. And then what is the derived need is when they're redesigning, they would want to redesign the toothbrush handle, the stem, such that it can be holded by the children easily and they can brush better. All right, so now you're understanding the relationship between problem statement, data, user insight, and derived need. All right, okay. So the step 2 outcome, what we are looking at is one key insight and one key need. All right, now in a regular like a design project, so this particular activity would take a lot of time, right? It can go to weeks and months trying to observe the users, doing many studies, observational studies, right? Talking to the customers, etc., etc. But we have only 2 hours of time. Okay, so we have to be more creative, and this is where we can leverage the power of technology to generate some thought processes, certain ideas, and of course we can always validate, and we can ask if these insights are valid or not with your friends, family, friends, and relatives, and etc. Right, so that way we can validate them. All right, so the steps that we are going to follow in this is there are 3 simple steps. Number 1 is to identify the key stakeholders. All right, for example, in the example of kids brush, there are many key stakeholders, but we need to identify the key stakeholder. For example, the child who is using the brush is one of the stakeholder. parent who buys the toothbrush is one of the key holder. The shopkeeper who sells them is one of the key holders, right? Stakeholders, right? So there could be many stakeholders. So first of all, we identify who are all the stakeholders in the problem. Then we try to identify the key stakeholder, because we will not be obviously be able to address the issues of all the stakeholders. So we need to identify the key stakeholder. And once we identify the key stakeholder, step number 2 is to basically create a persona to understand their specific or common needs. Now, what is a persona? Persona is a representation of a particular key stakeholder of a large group of such people. Okay, for example, in the case of a toothbrush, let us say we identified the kid as the key stakeholder. So, for example, maybe a 3-year-old kid. Okay, so if you say, okay, imagine a 3-year-old kid, then there is no reference point. So that is the reason we'll be creating a persona to help us understand or give some data points through which we can look through who the person is and whom are we designing for. Okay, and the step 2.3 is document that one strong valid insight and strong need. All right, so in the step 1 we also had this option of documenting, but there was not much time to review through, so I could not help you in briefing here, but if time permits here, I'll try to help you out. Okay, so I have shared the toolkit. I have updated the toolkit. Now if you go to step 2, you can see some data added there. Now again, so this basically gives you steps that you can follow along with the AI prompts that you can ask, and also questions to ask your friends, relatives, and etc. to basically find out who is the key stakeholder and what are their concerns and etc. All right. So let me just quickly run through this document questions to ask. So these are generic questions just to help you get idea of what kind of questions that you can ask the key stakeholder. You can always add and elaborate on these questions. Okay. What I find very interesting and very useful is using the ChatGPT to help us understand for a problem that you are trying to solve who the key stakeholder can be. Okay, so I'm going to do a small demo. All right, so let us open the prompts and see who are the what is the prompt. So the first prompt is to identify key stakeholder. Now these prompts actually help us to identify all the stakeholders and then see who will be the key stakeholder. Basically, this exercise, it will take a lot of time, and if the problem is very complex, there will be many stakeholders, right? So the prompt here is the problem I'm trying to solve is so and so. So you have to replace this particular red text with the problem statement that you have created. Okay, and it goes that list all the key stakeholders and their challenges or concerns associated with this problem. Identify the most primary key stakeholder, add a structure the stakeholders in a basic mind map. Structure of
Sorry to interrupt, sir, but if you're sharing your screen, we can only see the step 2 outcome slide of.
Oh, is it? Oh, thanks for highlighting. So let me choose the entire screen. Okay. Yeah, please do highlight if you are finding any problem. So can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is the prompt I was talking about. So in this particular sentence, replace the red text with the problem that you're trying to solve. Okay. And then you use copy paste the entire thing into ChatGPT and then you prompt. So I'll help you to show how I have prompted and what information I got. Okay. Okay. All right. So the prompt that I had given was, so as I explained in the step 1, the problem I was trying to solve is difficulties of dependents to get ownership of inherited assets. Now, where does this particular problem statement fall under and how is it related to Safe Bharat? Is because this is the financial safety and security of the family. Okay, so it comes under that domain, the financial services domain of Safe Bharat. Right, so I have added that, replaced the red text with this problem statement, and I have entered, and what ChatGPT has gave me back is this information. So what it did was it has listed all the key stakeholders and their associated challenges or concerns. For example, number 1 is dependents or inheritors. What is the challenge? Proving their rightful ownership of inherited assets. And what will be the concerns? Ensuring a smooth and legal transition of assets, dealing with emotional aspects of inheritance. Right, so that is one key stakeholder, the challenge and the concern. Okay, and then the estate executors, what are their challenges and what are the concerns. So if you see, the list goes to almost 14. In the problem that I'm trying to solve, there are 14 key stakeholders. If I had to solve that on my own with my own research, it will take a lot of time. But the power of AI is that because it is a large language model, it has all the information. We can ask questions and retrieve information, which will help in solving our problems. All right. So I have got all the list of stakeholders, and then since I have asked for the primary stakeholder, it has identified as the dependents or inheritors. Now it has identified that as the primary stakeholder. That doesn't mean I have to accept it. So this is the point where you actually have to use a critical thinking. Okay, if you're working individually, you can actually use your intellectual capacity to understand, okay, is this the only key stakeholder or are there any other people? Right? Or if you're working in a group, you can brainstorm and try to discuss and identify the key stakeholder. Right? Anyway, so let us see why it is saying that the dependents or inheritors are the key stakeholders here. Okay, so the most important primary stakeholder in this problem is the dependents, inheritors, because they are directly impacted by the difficulties in obtaining ownership of inherited assets. So definitely yes, because who is at the brunt, but who is facing the pain point? The dependents are facing the pain point, so they become the primary stakeholder. Okay, and what are their challenges? So the challenges and concerns, both legal and emotional. So there are two different challenges that they're facing. One is the emotions, because they have lost their loved one, and the second challenge is the legal issues that they're facing. Right? So these are the serious problems that they are facing. So we have identified the key stakeholder and their challenges. All right. So now we have asked for a basic mind map structure as well, because this will give us visually an understanding of the primary, secondary, and tertiary stakeholders. Okay, so it has created a rough drawing of the entire stakeholder structure, and it is very nice to see and understand. It basically opens up our own mind to understand how serious the problem is, how complex the problem is, whom all we should be considering when we are designing the solution, and later on we'll also be thinking from their perspectives as well. Okay, I mean, as a real project, you have to be looking through all of each of these key stakeholders requirements and then find the solutions. But currently we'll be primarily focusing on the primary key stakeholder. All right, so you see this map, it shows that the primary stakeholder is dependents or inheritors. The secondary ones are estate executors, legal professionals, family members, and other beneficiaries, right? And at a third layer, we have financial institutions and government authorities. And at a fourth layer, we have estate planners, financial advisors, charities or non-profits. And at the fifth layer, we have creditors, mental health professionals, etc., etc. So by using ChatGPT, it has basically saved so much of time and energies for me. Now that I have this information, I can actually quickly summarize that and go to the next step. The next step is, so let us see what is the next step. All right. I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sharing the Google Sheet, right? Step 2 Google Sheet,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay. Yeah. So I have identified the primary stakeholder. Now, so the step 2.1 is done. Okay. Now let us go to step 2.2. This step is also actually a pretty complex step, because you've got to identify um, uh, a persona who represents the primary key stakeholder, okay, and analyze their problems, analyze the personality, define their needs, goals, aspirations, etc., etc. All right. So again, here the technology is going to help us resolve and understand the complexity of these personas. So again, what we are going to do is use the prompts. All right. So here we take the second prompt. Okay, the second prompt is again to help us simplify the complexity of using personas and identifying their needs, aspirations, their service expectations, and all of that. Everything has been compiled into one prompt, and we are going to use this. All right. So here the problem statement. So again, what you have to do, you have to replace the red text with your problem statement. Okay. So what basically this prompt is asking is, it is asking for creation of 3 fictitious families and respective key holders pertaining to the problem, right? To be used as personas for further study of the concerns of the stakeholders, right? And create the user personas of the key stakeholders, make the personalities interesting and colorful characters relevant for the Indian context. So we are setting up all these prompts because if we don't, the more specific the prompt is, the more quality output we get, which we can use the data. All right, so this has already been engineered, and please use. And at any point of time, you want to get more specific information, you can always add. I'll help you understand how to achieve that as well. Okay, so I copy this prompt and I go to the Chat GPT, and I think I already have run this before, right? Okay, yes. So I just run this. Um, I just run this particular prompt. So what it is saying is, so I have replaced that particular red text with my problem, and then see what ChatGPT has given and how easily we will be able to understand the personas and then derive information from this. All right. So what it's saying is the respective key holders, along with their personalities, economic backgrounds, ambitions, key concerns, needs, and service expectations relate to the problem of difficulties of dependents to get ownership of inherited assets in Indian context. Okay, so it has given the examples of 3 families. So there is a Gupta family, there is Patel family, there is Khan family. And it is also given who is a key stakeholder. Here it is Mr. Rajesh Gupta, Mrs. Meera Patel, and Ms. Aisha Khan. And you can also read through it, the personality, what kind of a personality they are. So Gupta is a conservative, Mr. Patel is Mrs. Patel is a traditional, and Ms. Khan is ambitious. So when you go through this, you can actually create a mental imagery of what this family is all about. Okay. In fact, it will be very helpful if you can add a picture, tag a picture to the family, especially the key stakeholder. Then it becomes, you'll be able to associate and relate with that particular personality much better. Okay. So if you see the economic backgrounds, it's middle class, working class, so family business, and so you can read through them and understand. And if you feel that certain tweaks have to be done, you can go ahead and do the tweaks. For example, let us say I would want to change the economic backgrounds of these people, all right? So economic background is upper middle class, lower middle class, and working class. I think ChatGPT has given a balanced approach in terms of the economic backgrounds. So that is pretty cool. And let us say their profession is not given, right? The profession is not given. So what you can do is, let us ask for the profession. So how do you change or add the requirement? So go here to the prompt. So here you can see edit, like a pen mark. So click on it. So click here. Make the personalities interesting with colorful characters, relevant Indian context, economic strata and ambitions, comma, include their professions. Include their professions. Okay, and then save and submit. Okay, so this time it has given us a different kind of a layout. So this, because it is adding a school teacher, for example, it has in fact changed the family group as well. Now, let us say if you don't like to have this kind of a format, what you can do is you can regenerate. And once you regenerate, it will give you a different option. Now, this different option is more attuned to our way of understanding. And here you can see that the profession is for this particular family is a successful software engineer. And here she is a school teacher. And here it is a owner of a textile business. So adding more layers to the persona such that we get more insights from them. All right. So let us go down further, and you can see that what are the needs. Needs is simplified legal guidance, estate planning and will preparation, conflict resolution services. So it has given 3 needs. Okay, so you can actually map the needs with the other 2 personas also. Okay, and see which are the needs which are common, because we can start off with the needs which are common. So let us say this is an app solution. So initially, I mean, you got to design an app in such a way that different kinds of people can use, because the pain point is almost the same, right? So you start off with designing, keeping in mind the most common needs, and then you go on expanding with other features. All right. So anyway, so this is how you identify the needs, and also service expectations. So for example, this persona, they want online legal platform for guidance, will creation and management services, and mediation services for disputes, right? So here the service expectations are expert legal counsel, property title verification. So again, in the service expectations, you can identify top 3 which are common in nature, such that you can use the next step. Okay, so this is the way we can leverage the technology that is available and speed up the process of innovation. Okay, so some of you may say that, okay, oh, you're not using your skill of creating user personas and all that, but you see that you have to still use your critical thinking skills. Now there is data here, but what do you do with the data? How do you make sense of the data and find the right insight and the right need is still is with you. Okay, so technology, as Professor Vyas said, technology is only an enabler. It is not the driver. Driver is still the person who is using the technology. All right. So so with that, let us go to the next step. Right. The next step is, if you want, you can add a picture to the persona, because we may or may not require the documentation of your how you arrived and etc. But if you want, you can create. So how do you create a persona? You go to Bing. Now the step is already given in step 1. For example, find an image that conveys the problem that you're trying to solve. The tutorial is there. It is the same method, but you just change the prompt. The prompt could be like, okay, I'm looking at Kapoor family, right? So Mr. Kapoor, and you know the profession. Mr. Kapoor, so and so age, profession, okay, and so get a picture of him. So it will generate a picture, and you can choose the pictures from them. Okay, so try experiment doing that. It's very simple and fun to do that. All right. So that is how you basically come up with the one top insight and one top need. And what you do is once you get that information, you go to Canva template. Now, let me just give you some instructions because I'm seeing a lot of people requesting for access to edit these documents. You don't need any access to edit. In fact, you have to copy the document and you can edit it. So quickly, let me show you. Let us say I'm clicking on the template, right? I'm clicking on the template. So because I'm the owner, it is directly taking me for the edit, right? But otherwise, I have created a tutorial and kept it there. So what you do is go to file and make a copy. So once you make a copy, you will be able to edit all the information. And so there is no need for requesting edit access to me because I'm getting edit access requests for templates and also the Google Sheets. You don't require any edit access. You just have to go copy or go make a copy of it. Okay. Now, another important insight that I would like to give here is on the top, you see this pink bubble, there is a number over here. This number is your team number. Please ensure that your team number is added. Okay, because that is how we will be identifying whose entry is this. And you are not supposed to write your name or school name or any other information on this sheet. Okay. So please ensure that in the slide 1 itself, you ensure that you add this and then you can duplicate. And duplicating is very simple. Go here and say duplicate page and it will create another duplicate page. All right. So the idea is that in the slide 1 itself, you add the correct team number. You can duplicate it many times and the information will be duplicated. All right. And there were some questions that I have noticed that asking, okay, is it important that you upload this step 1, step 2 at the end of each of the times? It would help because we would be at the background, we will be seeing how the progression is going on and it will give us insights in terms of what kind of instructions or examples we need to give to you such that you will be able to make use of that particular feature better. All right. So with